Welcome back to the Iron Sharpens Iron Garage. I'm Shane Coons. Today we're going to work on the Juggernaut again. We're looking at installing the spark plug wires. I got some MSD 8.5 millimeter superconductor wires. So we got to get these made up. We got single ends on them, and we're going to get them mounted into the car. I've got these old wire separators. I wasn't real happy with them. The biggest they would hold is 8 millimeter wires, so they didn't work for my wires. They have these little black plastic wire holders. So I bought some of these anodized aluminum holders off of Amazon. I tried figuring out the best way to get these mounted on here. And I'm just not real happy with them. So I don't think we're going to go that route. I'm going to take these back off of here. And it looks like there's plenty of material in these black plastic separators that I'm going to go ahead and drill these out for the 8.5 millimeter wires and put them back on here, and then we'll get them mounted into the car. So here you can see one of these blocks that I just drilled out. And by comparison, the holes aren't much bigger, but they're enough that they will definitely allow the wires to fit without pinching them. So we're going to go ahead and do that with the rest of these blocks, so that way we can assemble them back on the separator. So just for comparison, here's one of the new wires. You can see that doesn't even fit in the hole when these are clamped all the way down, which means that's going to pinch the wire. I could get it if I loosen this screw up, but I don't want to pinch that sheathing. After I drill them out, you can see they slide right in there. Nice. That's really what I want. I want them to just fit in there and be able to hold them in place without actually pinching that sheathing at all. So this should be perfect for what I need. So, as I stated, wasn't real happy with these. I mean, they're just a cheap wire separator that I picked up from the parts store. I think they're a Spectre brand. They work okay. I didn't really have any issues with them other than they take up a lot of real estate. I'll show you how they were mounted before. And I was just trying to look for something to kind of tie in the look of the red engine block and the black and red of the Brawler carb. And so I found these anodized aluminum wire separators on Amazon. And I really like these. They match everything really well, but there's no way to mount them. They're just meant to float with your spark plugs. And running headers, I don't like that because I don't want my spark plug wires to fall up against my header. So I thought maybe I could figure out a way to attach them to my existing bracket and that they would look okay. Unfortunately, the things I'm coming up with right now, they don't really, it doesn't look quite as good as I would like. Like from the top, it's not bad. But they're just zip tied to the bracket and I'm not real happy with that. So I don't know. I may send these back. They were fairly cheap. I think I've only got like 30 bucks in the wire separators. I might use them on another project because I do like the look. Maybe I'll use them on my Dodge Ram. I just don't think that they're going to work for this project. And ultimately, everything that I've found on the aftermarket, I'm not real happy with. So I'm probably ultimately going to have to make something. Right now, I really just want to get the car back running. So I'm going to bite the bullet and I'm going to go back to using this wire separator. But I am going to try to mount it a little bit different. Okay, so previously, these were mounted straight out from the studs like this, which is good. It kept the wires up plenty high away from the headers. Then I would have to run down underneath to gain access to the spark plugs. And I had my catch can and other things mounted out here. It's not so bad on the passenger side, but on the driver's side, it really became a pain with the steering shaft and the oil dipstick. So what I think I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to mount these upright. So I'll show you on the driver's side what that looks like. So this is a pretty good view of the driver's side. If I take that passenger side bracket, move it to the driver's side, I think I can mount it just like that. And you can see how much more space that buys me here because I'm hugging the block more with the spark plug wires. And I don't have to go around a sharp edge. I come straight down to my spark plugs, which are right below there. But it'll still keep the wires up and away from my headers. So good access to my dipstick, where before this dipstick was actually touching the side of the bracket. So that made it a challenge every time I wanted to remove this. I felt like I was going to hook into my spark plug wires and rip them out. And then also my steering shaft runs right through this area. So I didn't have access to any of my control arm adjustments, my steering linkage, anything, as long as this bracket was mounted, because essentially it was mounted like this. Hopefully you can see that and how wide out that sticks. So I think I'll gain quite a bit of real estate by doing this, and it'll help clean everything up just a little bit. And we'll just run the wires vertically. Okay, so just a little update. I've got the wire separators mounted. I like to go ahead and route my spark plug wires before I cut anything, just to make sure that I've got everything placed where I want it, try to get my routing correct, and that way I don't accidentally cut too much off of a wire that I need. So let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so here you can see I got the wire separator mounted. Looks good. Plenty of room there with my oil fill tube. Wires are good up away from the headers. And I just have the wires just loosely slipped over the spark plugs so that way I can route them up, make sure everything is somewhat clean and the way that I want to route it. And then I just take some zip ties and I zip tie my wires. I know it looks kind of messy right now because there's a lot of excess, but I just zip tie them to the posts that they're going to go to. And then I can remove them one at a time, cut them down, and then fit them back on, and make sure that I've still got enough free play to be able to adjust my distributor. So the next step then is going to be taking these wires off, just like I said, and one by one, we go ahead and get them cut to length and then get the ends crimped on them and mount them for the final time. You ever notice how a car can have a good battery, fresh fuel, and still run rough or not run at all? Just because something as simple as a spark plug wire, those wires aren't flashy. Most people don't think about them much, but their whole job is to carry power from the ignition coil to the spark plugs, right where it's needed at just the right time. If those wires are worn out, cracked, or not connected right, the spark doesn't get there. And when the spark doesn't get there, things start misfiring. And I think our spiritual lives can look a lot like that. In Ephesians chapter 2, verse 13, it says, "But now in Christ Jesus, you who once were far away have been brought near by the blood of Christ." That connection matters. Just like those spark plug wires, we're not the source of power, but we've been brought near to it. We've been given access. Because here's the thing, God's power hasn't gone anywhere. The ignition is still good, but sometimes our connection gets worn. Maybe it's stress, maybe it's distractions, maybe it's habits we've let creep in, maybe it's just neglect. Like a set of wires that's been sitting under the hood too long, slowly breaking down from heat and time. And what happens? We start to misfire. You feel it. Your patience is shorter, your peace is thinner. You're trying to move forward, but something's just off. Not because God isn't working, but because the connection isn't as strong as it should be. The fix isn't complicated, but it is intentional. You don't ignore bad wires, you inspect them. You check the connections, you replace what's worn, you make sure everything's seated right and flow in the way it should. Spiritually, that looks like coming back to the basics. Time in the Word, honest prayer, not polished, just real. Community, people who help to keep you grounded and pointed in the right direction. It's not about being perfect, it's about staying connected. James chapter 4 verse 8 says, "Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you." That's a promise. Not perform better and maybe he'll show up. Just draw near. And here's something else about spark plug wires. They don't just carry power, they carry it in the right order. Each one is routed intentionally. If you mix them up, even if everything else is good, the engine still won't run right. Same with us. God doesn't just call us to connection, he calls us to alignment. His way, his timing, his design. So if it feels a little rough now, if things aren't firing like they should, don't immediately assume that everything's broken. Maybe it's just time to check the connection, reconnect, realign, and replace what's worn. Because when the connection is right, the power flows, the engine smooths out, and things start working the way they were designed to. And that's where peace, purpose, and forward motion really begin. Lord, thank you for drawing us near to you. Thank you that we don't have to generate the power. We just have to stay connected. Help us recognize where our connection has worn down or drifted. Give us the humility to come back to you, to realign our lives with you, with your truth, and to be intentional about staying close. Strengthen what's weak, restore what's been neglected, and guide us back into the rhythm you designed for us. Let your power flow freely through our lives so that everything we do reflects you. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so I've got the driver's side spark plug wires all built and in with their boots into the wire separators. I did end up using the anodized aluminum separators as well, just to give it a little bit of color and to really make sure that these loops here were not touching, because they were touching this upper wire. It probably won't hurt anything, but just to make sure that we don't get any crossing of signals and misfires, I went ahead and did that. So starting with the number 2 spark plug, I'm going to come in here, pull this off the post, holding the zip tie where it's at. And then I'm just going to tighten that zip tie down. And this will be my indicator of where I need to cut that wire at for my boot and the terminal end. The nice thing about this, and I'll show you this, is this will actually push its way up onto the cutting fixture, and it will actually give me just a little bit of extra length, so that way I know I can't be cutting it too short. So now that we have spark plug wire number 2 marked where we want to cut it, we're going to go ahead and remove these separator brackets, so that way we can get the wire out. We'll cut it, we'll put that one back on, and then move to the next spark plug, so on and so forth. So we'll start here, we'll do 2, and then work our way all the way back until all 4 are done. This is the tool supplied with the spark plug wire, or spark plug wires from MSD. You see, it's a nice tool. This is your crimp side, and this is the back side. These actually fit together, and then you clamp them in a vise, and then that's what actually creates your crimp. So it doesn't really allow you to over crimp, as long as you're paying attention to what you're doing. Now, if you over tighten your vise, of course, you're going to break this plastic. So you just got to watch for when they're just touching, and then stop cranking down your vise. But it also has this neat little tool here. This allows us to slide our spark plug wire end into it like that, right? And there's 2 indicators here. The first one, where this edge is, right here, that's where you're going to cut your insulation. And then this second one out here, if you can see where my finger is there, there's a little ledge there. That's where you want your conductor, the center part of this wire, to be cut at. So what I was saying is, this is actually really nice with the zip tie, because essentially I was saying I want to cut my wire here, but since that rides along the outside edge, that means I'm going to gain about 1/2 inch in length. So you want to take that into consideration, but that will ensure that I don't cut the wire too short or pull the wire too tight. So just a little trick that I like to use. And then as I cut this wire, like I said, that zip tie is going to run along that edge and ensure that my cuts are square. So what you do then is you take this, place it down in your vise. You don't need a lot of tension on it right now. We just want to hold this fixture in place. I take a new razor blade, right? And the first thing I want to do is I want to come out to this second indicator, and I'm just going to slide my razor blade down to where it's flat with this jig, and then twist my spark plug wire. Then I'm going to do the same thing up against the raised edge here where I want to cut my insulation at. So this won't allow your blade to cut all the way through into the conductor. This just allows you to trim the insulation. So once I've done that and I spun it around 360 degrees, hopefully you can see those 2 little cuts that I made there. So the longer cut, I'm going to just take my wire cutters, and now I'm going to cut all the way through. So that's the length of the conductor. And then at the second cut, I'm just going to twist this end a couple times around, and then it'll pull right off. And now you have a perfect length conductor with the nice square end of your insulation. Now we can get rid of this zip tie. These are the ends supplied by MSD. These are really nice. They're a double crimp end. So what they suggest is you take a pair of needle nose pliers first and bend these top tabs over 90 degrees. That's going to allow this to fit in that tool for crimping really nicely. They don't have to be perfect, and I've learned that the more you do this, the more you kind of tweak it around and figure out just exactly how it's going to fit into the tool best. One thing I've noticed is just bending those tabs 90 degrees is not enough to get it into the tool. Sometimes you have to bring these edges. They're flared out a little bit too much. So you want to bring those back up to where they're almost 90 degrees as well. But then you got to be able to fit your wire into those as well. So the wire, I just slide it right up on the edge, right? And then kind of feed it in. And you may realize, hey, it might be a little bit too tight and you got to loosen your tabs a little, or it may slip right in and be too loose. So it's just kind of a feel thing to be able to figure out what is the right amount. So like this tab here is bent over a little bit too much there. So it's kind of gouging into the insulation. So I want to straighten that back out a little. There we go. That looks pretty good. You want the insulation to be just past this tab here, but not all the way touching the second area, because that's where our double crimp on our conductor is going to be. So now that we have that situated where we need it to be, now push that conductor down. So that way it's between the second crimps. And now we're going to slip this into our tool. So the back side goes into the U area, right? And then the W shape goes to the top. This is where you kind of have to play with these crimps just a little bit to make sure that they'll slip into that tool. So now that I have it on the wire, I'm going to push it together just a little bit more. And that's going to allow it to slip up into that tool. You can see it's gripped there. We'll take this tab and we want to match this tab up to the same side. And we'll slip them together. Slide that all the way down in the vise. And then just crank the vise closed. And then you want to make sure you're watching on the sides for just when the plastic of the two pieces touch on the tool, so you don't over crimp or break your tool. So that looks pretty good there. So we got a good solid crimp on that insulation. That's not going to come back off. Now what we want to do is we want to take this conductor and we need to get that pushed down in and crimped down as well. So for that, I'll take the anvil part of my vise and a flathead screwdriver, and I just push it down between those crimps. You want to kind of be careful with this. You don't want to tear that conductor up. And then I take these crimping pliers that I have, and they have a nice little notched area here that I find works really well for these. Well, I will slide it into that area. Push that crimp in, turn it 180 degrees. Push that crimp in. And then right below the little notch, actually where the two flats are, I will use that area to make sure that I've flattened out those crimps without crushing the wire. It's just going to make sure that we got a good connection on that conductor. And once it's all done, it'll look like that. You can see good crimp on the insulation. We got a good bond to our conductor. Now we got to put it in our boot. So for the boot, This was supplied by MSD as well. This is the distributor side boot. I take a little dielectric grease and I place that right on the conductor end. That's going to help lubricate this to slide into the boot, and it's going to help protect it from corrosion and make sure we get good current. And then it's just caveman time. You just got to push it into the boot, but the dielectric grease really helps it slip in. And you just want to keep pushing it in there and check down in the opening. You may not be able to see that. But you just want to make sure that that connection is pushed all the way into the boot. Once you've done that, I'll clean this dielectric grease off the end of the wire, or off the end of the boot. And then I'll take just a quick little squirt into the boot. And the same on the other end. So once we hook these up to our spark plug, it'll help them slip on a little easier. And it will also help prevent, or it'll help improve the conductivity of the wire, but also help prevent these plug wires from seizing on the spark plugs. And we just slip our heat shields over the boots. Sometimes this could be the trickiest part because these are lined with a fiberglass, so they're double walled, so sometimes your spark plug boot will grab it and you have to kind of work it around a little bit. Go ahead and grab a different one and slip it in there. And there you can see my boot in my sleeve protector. And now we can get this mounted back onto the car. Okay, now I want to take my boot. And these are angled or straight boots, but they can do multi-angle. So I can kind of bend them around where I need them after it's secured. That end's secured. So now I'm going to kind of route this. Doesn't have to be perfect in the wire separator just yet, because we're not going to put the covers back on. Not just yet anyhow. Route this wire back up underneath like we had it before. Now that the ends are secured, now we'll go ahead and put this first separator cover back on. Okay, so now you can kind of see how that is going to run. I'm going to finish the rest of the other 3 up, and then I'll come back. Well, I got the passenger side all wrapped up. All the plug wires are in. I got the coil wire hooked up. So let me show you how it looks. Okay, here's the finished product. You can see my spark plug wires. Again, I did use those anodized aluminum wire separators, just like on the other side. Everything's routed nice and clean up behind the valve covers and over to my distributor. And the coil wire, I gave some extra length on the coil wire just for any timing adjustments, and then that'll allow me to attach it to the firewall if I want, just to keep everything clean. But from the front side, you can also see how much more room I gained there. That whole area being open. I still got to put my oil catch can back in. And here's the driver's side again. So this is going to be nice. I have a lot of room here for down here for my steering shaft, and it won't be in the way of my spark plug wires anymore. It'll make it a lot easier for maintenance in the future. Well, that's going to wrap us up for tonight. I hope you guys have been enjoying this project. It's been a lot of fun sharing it with you. Got all the spark plug wires done today and the coil wire. We only got a few more tasks, and then we're going to be ready to fire this thing up. So I hope you'll join me for that. Again, I thank you so very much for your support. And I look forward to sharing more videos with you and interacting with you online. So if you like the content, please like, share, turn on that notification bell so you know when I've got new videos posting. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, and have a blessed day.